Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to everyone about the E-IWO process. Again, my name is Pat Snodgrass, and I work with the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement on the electronic income withholding order process. And that process is used to provide you with the income withholding orders that were just discussed in electronic format to save you receiving them via the mail. And we're going to go through the process and what it takes to enroll you in that process. So the building blocks for the E-IWO process when it was developed several years ago was to provide states an ability to electronically send the income withholding order to the employers, and for the employers to be able to not only receive them electronically, but electronically accept or reject them. So it's sort of a two-way communication that was set up to allow you to notify the state agency of what action you've taken for that income withholding order. Your federal employer identification number is really the key in how we identify participating employers and how we route the orders to you from the state agency. You were heard a few minutes ago in the presentation that you requested to notify the state agency if you're enforcing a child support order for one of your employees, if that employee terminates. And many states also require you to notify them if you're about to pay a lump sum payment, a bonus, or some other type of payment to the employee so they can determine if there's anything they need to collect from that lump sum payment for arrears that were mentioned earlier. So this process also allows you to use this process to initiate that notification to the state agency. We support two implementation options for employers, and the first one is what we call our system-to-system option, and that really requires your IT department and your company to do some programming in order to receive the orders and to respond to the orders with the acknowledgments that I mentioned earlier. And the second option is one that was developed that we refer to as the no programming option, because we're going to deliver you the documents, the orders, and the acknowledgments in a method that you can complete and return without developing any software. There is absolutely no charge for this process to you as an employer. So it's free. It's a service that will assist you, but there's no chargeback for using it. And today we have all 50 states using the process. So the only two territories that are not using the E-IWO process are Guam and the Virgin Islands. So when you sign up for the E-IWO process, you not only will get your orders from California this way, you will get them from any other state that you might currently receive paper orders from. So this is an example of a young lady that we worked with when we first implemented the process, and she worked for a temporary staffing agency. And those 4 crates of United States Postal Service crates that you see there were what she was dealing with every day as income withholding orders from the various states. And as you know, in paper, not all of the orders always look exactly the same, and some have more attachments. So she was dealing with all of this from a mail perspective, and so she was looking forward to joining the E-IWO process to eliminate the handling of all that mail. And she volunteered this picture for us, so it just gives us an opportunity to show you what you can eliminate. So one of the benefits that we like to talk about the most of using the E-IWO process is that it will get child support to the family sooner. We have done studies to prove that by sending it to you electronically, you can react to the order faster and be able to enforce the order in a less saving time of the postage and the mail handling and all of that. And it's really easy for us to add new employers and for the states to also add the new employers to know that they can send them electronically through us. And by getting the support to the family sooner, we're going to increase collection, because in some cases you may be able to enforce the order for a couple of weeks before that employee leaves your employment, especially if in the case of temporary employment agencies. We save time for the state because, again, they don't have the handling of the mail, and for you because you don't have the handling of the mail, and money and resources by dealing with it electronically. And all of the orders will come to you in the exact same form. So it's the government-approved E-IWO form, and all state agencies are required to use it, and it will be enforced to be used with the E-IWO process. And we do edit the documents to make sure they're complete and all the required fields are there so that you get complete documents and the data is more reliable than you sometimes get on paper. So in order to participate in the E-IWO process, you are required to register with us. So every employer who's going to participate in the process must register, and they register using the form that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. That's what we call our profile or registration form, and you simply review all of the terms of participation and accept those, and then you provide us, the format has you provide us information about your company, your points of contact if we have any issues with our connection and delivery to you, and then information we can use to connect to your company and deliver these orders electronically. And we will also ask you to complete a spreadsheet where you'll provide us information about your company, FEIN, names, addresses, points of contact for the state agencies if they have any questions on the enforcement of a particular order. We need those documents in order to complete the registration process. If you participate in the E-IWO process through a payroll provider, you won't be required to fill out this form, but you will be required to sign an authorization form with that payroll provider authorizing them to receive the orders on your behalf. So I just wanted to mention that because some of you might be using payroll providers that participate in the E-IWO process. So this is a technical diagram that explains how our process works. So if you start in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see those are the state agencies. Our process is there in the middle of the screen, and we have a process that goes daily to the state agencies. That's Monday through Sunday. We go to the state agencies to see if they have any income withholding orders for any of our participating E-IWO employers. We retrieve the orders that they have ready for us. We edit them to make sure that they have all the required fields. Then we unbatch those and send them to the appropriate employer. Now, part of our process will look at which of the implementation options the employer has selected, whether it's the system-to-system or the no programming, and then we will reformat the documents we retrieve from the state agencies into the employer's requested format. We do not change content in any way. We simply format it into the format you've requested, and then we batch them up and send them to the individual employer. Now, you might have, a company primary FEIN and 5 subsidiaries, so we will batch everything together for your company with your primary and your subsidiary FEIN. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we will connect to a server that you will provide us access to, and we will deliver to that server. And on that server, you will designate a directory where we would deliver the documents or the file that you have requested we use. And there on the chart, it shows you the 3 types of servers that we can support today. And just want to guarantee you, if you're talking to your IT department, that this is a fully secure network connection that we establish with you. We have federal requirements on what it takes to operate a system like this, make sure that we are securing the personal identifying information properly before we move it from one location to the other, and we are audited to make sure we're adhering to those standards. We also, at the time of delivery, will retrieve any acknowledgments. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to receive the order electronically, and you're going to be expected to acknowledge it electronically. So we'll retrieve any of the orders that you have ready for us. Again, we'll edit them to make sure they have all the required fields. If not, we'll reject them back to you. If so, we will format them and send them back to the appropriate state agency. So by closing that loop, it also helps in terms of if you receive an order for an employee who no longer works for you, you're going to have a pretty instant notification back to the state agency that this employee is no longer working for you, so you won't be enforcing, and they can go in search of a new source of income for that employee. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 implementation options, the system-to-system, which is an IT project because you will have to develop software to interface with your employee records and your payroll systems to determine the amount to be withheld and to apply the information from the order. And that usually takes most employers about a 6-month time frame to go from requirements analysis, design, coding, development, and implementation. We do know that some of you might have payroll software that has a system-to-system interface. Again, that could take you a little while to test to your satisfaction how the process is working, but it's a little shorter time frame. And again, we can work with you to set that up and test. The other option is our no programming option, and it's much easier to implement because it's pretty minimal IT investment. And the IT investment is the first step, which is that server that you are going to provide us access to. Most of you may have such a server set up for communication with other parties. We just require our directories or directories be added for us to use so that we can secure the data that we're delivering to you. We recommend this is the option for new employers just so they get used to the flow of the income withholding orders. They get the idea of how the process works with the state agencies and how to do the acknowledgement so that when they're developing their requirements, they have the information they can give to their IT team to program those business rules that your payroll staff currently knows how to do from reading the order and the instructions and from experience. This option also gives you the ability to accept or reject the income withholding order, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. And it also gives the information that you return in acknowledgement to the state agencies, as I talked about in that last picture. So both options give some of the same capabilities. It's just how much time you spend in developing the software to do that. And this option and the system-to-system option allows you to initiate a termination notification to the state agency or a lump sum payment notification to the state agency. So both of those will do that. It's just in system-to-system, you have to do the programming for those two transactions. And for the no programming option, we provide you templates to use to do those. So the system-to-system implementation, it's usually used for employers with larger volume of income withholding orders because you're looking for the cost benefit of spending your IT dollars to automate the process. So you are looking for a longer term investment. And again, you don't typically want to do that if you only receive a couple orders a week. You have two choices in the file format. You can either use a flat file text file or you can get an XML schema. We support both. It's your choice. And then when you receive the formats, you're required to develop the software to map the information out of those files to your payroll system and then to take the required action. We do batch these things, so it's a file transfer, so it's batches. It's kind of old technology approach to sending the orders to you. And so we require you to do the same thing when you return back to us. You need to batch the acknowledgement transactions according to our rules and return those back to us. You have the option, and most employers want the option because just like California said, you're required to give a copy of the income withholding order in the state of California to your employees. So you have the option of also receiving an image-ready income withholding order in a PDF document. So if we delivered on the flat file, we delivered 15 orders, you'll get 15 PDF documents to match each one of the orders that were on that file so that you can print it and give it to your employee or you can store it for your records. Again, you must create the software to generate that acknowledgement to say whether you have accepted or rejected it, and if you rejected it, what reason you have for rejecting it to assist the states in their next action. And it really does minimize your manual intervention. Once you have all the software developed, it's pretty automated and you probably won't have to handle very many income withholding orders unless you develop some kind of exception software process for the harder to deal with orders. And again, just from experience and working with employers through their process, helping them do their mapping and talking to them about the requirements, we see it takes most companies about 6 months of their IT resources to implement this option. Next slide. So the no programming option is pretty straightforward. You're going to receive a PDF image of the order. And again, just like with the system-to-system, you can print that and give that to your employee. You'd also need to use that copy to take the necessary action in your payroll system to implement the order. So both option 1 and option 2 under the no programming option would give you that order in a PDF document. But then you decide whether you want to acknowledge to us using a pre-filled fillable PDF document. So that would be 1 for 1. If we deliver 15 orders, you're going to get 15 acknowledgement documents. And or option 2, you notify us if you want to use Excel spreadsheet. In that case, if you got 15 orders, you get 1 Excel sheet that day with the 15 orders listed, and you would accept or reject each of those orders using that Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to show you both in just a second. And as you can see, we have employers using both of these acknowledgement options. A little over 600 of them today use the PDF acknowledgement, and about 190 plus are using the Excel acknowledgement. And the ratio as we add new employers stays about the same. You have to look at the 2 options and decide what works best for your organization and your workflow and your volume. If you decide on option 1, acknowledgement, which is the PDF, and after using the system for a couple of weeks or a month, you decide, you know what, Excel might work better for our workflow, you just simply contact us, and we can switch you from the PDF acknowledgement to the Excel acknowledgement pretty quickly. But I will say that we can't go retroactive, so you have to continue to work any you've received to that date using that acknowledgement template, but we can change it going forward. So I don't want you to feel like if you make the wrong choice, you can't change it. We try to work with you. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the PDF acknowledgement. And as you can see at the top half of the screen, the information that you see there above the box and then inside the box, we pre-fill all of that from the order. So it matches a PDF order that you received for that day. And then about halfway down the screen, you see where you go to the disposition status, and you either select that you're accepting it or you're rejecting it. If you're rejecting it, select the disposition reason code. You see there's a drop-down box, and there are predefined reasons for rejecting that we have worked on with the state agencies and the employers that they can provide. And so you select the option as appropriate for the reason that you're rejecting. And if you have any additional information that you want to provide us with, like a corrected FEIN, for example, if your employee works for your company, but they used to work for one subsidiary, now they're working for another one, you can provide us with the correct FEIN they're working for now. If you're enforcing multiple orders for this person from different states, you can indicate the state code that for the other order. And down below that notification of termination, there's some additional fields that match the information that's requested on the paper income withholding order that was mentioned earlier about corrected address information you might have for that employee or other source of income or where they have gone to work at this point in time. If you have that information, you provide it. If you don't, then you leave those fields blank. And then you simply validate and save. And when you validate and save, you write it out to your outbound folder, and we'll retrieve it and format it and send it to the state agency. This is just an example of the option 2, which is using the Excel acknowledgement. And in this case, the employer received 3 orders that day from the state of New York, and the information from column A to column J is pre-filled for you. And you go to column A and you drop down and select accept or reject, and then go to column L if you've rejected and select the appropriate disposition reason code. And the other fields that we were just talking about on the PDF document are beyond column L. And again, there's edit formats and information that explains to you what to enter into those. Once you've completed the whole spreadsheet, then you would save it and put it in your outbound folder for us to retrieve. We'll retrieve that Excel file, separate those acknowledgments out, create the format that the state needs to receive them, and send them to the state agency. So in working with the state and the employers, what we found is, particularly with the employers, that some employers are not receiving orders every day. So it was helpful for them to receive an email when we've delivered to them or when we retrieved anything from them, any acknowledgments from them, so that they know that the activity has occurred, and if there was any rejection that day that they would see a notification that we thought we acknowledged 10 orders, but 3 of them rejected. I need to go see what I did wrong. So we only send the email notification. It's a daily process, but we would only send one to you if we had some activity, either a delivery to you or a retrieval from your server. So this email is similar to what you see here in terms of it tells you what we processed from your server. We received 28 records. We found one with an error, and 27 of them were considered good and routed to the state agencies. Or what we delivered to you. We delivered 18 new orders, and we delivered you 18 PDF documents to go with those orders. So again, it just tells you a little bit about what we've done, and it's a reminder to your staff, especially for the no programming option. It's a reminder to your staff that there's an action they need to take, and they need to go to the appropriate folder and retrieve the orders that were received that day for processing. But we also do send it for our system-to-system users, and I think they mostly use it just to see if there were any errors, to make sure there's been no problems with their programming or their software in processing the orders, and they can take an action if there's any issues. You can tell us you want this to go to one person, 5 people, or group email boxes, which is probably our preference, so that you can make sure that email is getting to the right resources in your company. And if someone leaves, you just notify us, and we'll change to the new contact that you provide to us. So it usually takes us a few days to do that, but we try to get to those so we know you're getting the notifications in a timely manner. So what do you need to do to prepare for joining the E-IWO process, and we certainly hope you will, is first thing is the employer needs to determine that server. You see there the 3 types of servers, again, that we support, either a secure file transfer protocol, or SFTP server, or a FTP server with a virtual private network. And we actually create the virtual private network and connect with you using that. Or you can use the file transfer protocol server. So all 3 of these, with the mechanisms are set up, are considered secure for the transmission of the data across the internet to you. So those are the 3 we can support. If your IT department has any questions on those 3 servers or any issues that they want to discuss, you can contact us. We'll put you in connection with our technical team, and they will be glad to answer any questions to help you determine the right server protocol to be used. And again, if you're using the PDF acknowledgement, then you will need to have Adobe Reader version 10 or higher with JavaScript turned on to do the fillable PDF. We have embedded edits that we perform, so we need the JavaScript so we can pop up and tell you if there's an error. Then once you have identified that you have the right server and the resources, then you would complete that profile form that I mentioned earlier and provide us information about the server and contacting and connecting with it. And you would fill out the FEIN spreadsheet that I mentioned and complete that and provide us with the information about your companies. And then you would return that to us, and our first step would be to set up connectivity with your server to make sure we can use the information you provided on the profile to connect to your server. And we do, I don't think I failed to mention, we do, in production, we do process 7 days a week. Our cycle runs at around 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. And it typically takes, depending on the volume of data that we are processing that particular day, usually takes us about an hour. And you would receive your email notification around noon letting you know what we sent to you and what we retrieved from your server that day. So it is a daily process. Obviously, you're not expected to have to do anything on Saturday and Sunday, but be aware that things could have been delivered to you over the weekend. So once we have connectivity set up, we will conduct a user test with you just to make sure that you can receive the orders, process them, and prove that you can acknowledge them back to us. And we will work with you to test the typical acknowledgement to a new order, but also to test to make sure you understand how to create a termination notification for the state for an employee who is leaving your company and you're enforcing an order for, or a lump sum notification. Once we've successfully tested with you, we add employers to the process on the 1st and the 15th of each month. So we will negotiate with you for the next available start date. And then we notify the state agencies on the 1st and the 15th of any new companies that are being added for that particular time frame, so that they can then update their system and know they can send electronically to you. There could be a couple-day lag in the state agency's updates, and of course, there's always mail lag. So you may still see paper for a little bit after you go live, and you may not see an order the very first day you go live. But we will make sure you're up and running on the 1st and the 15th, and we will start to check our connectivity with your server on a daily basis to make sure we still have that established. If there's any issues with connecting to your server for the delivery or retrieval, our IT department will reach out to your technical contact to try to troubleshoot the issue, provide details of what error we're getting, and work with you to resolve that. So just to give you a comfort level, this process is not new. As you can see here, this is sort of our brag chart, but as of into September 2012, we had processed 1 million orders, which was pretty exciting for us because it took a while to get up and moving. And we consistently have grown in the number of orders that we've processed each year. And just recently, we achieved over 10 million orders processed since the beginning of the process. And we're on track to process about 2 million orders through the E-IWO process a year. So just to give you the comfort level that the process does work, it's established, and many employers and payroll companies are using it. So if you have any questions regarding the E-IWO process, I know we'll be around. I'll be around at the end of the session to answer any questions that you might have. I see a couple have popped up. And you just simply contact us at E-IWO mail at acf@hhs.gov. If you're interested in joining the process, you just need to send an email to that email account. Tell us who you are and which option you're interested in. If you're not sure, you can ask us to contact you to talk about the options again in more detail. And then we will provide you with the appropriate profile form and the FEIN spreadsheet. You do have to contact us via that email to find those documents or to get those documents. They're not available on anyone's website. And then you can see here there's also a link to an employer website that we have at the federal level that provides more information about the E-IWO process. And if you look around at that particular site, you'll find other information about tools that are available through the federal office to assist employers in compliance with child support requirements for enforcement. So if you have any questions on anything you see at that site, you can also ask us and we'll get you the right answer.